The alarm had been ringing for 3 days straight. Commander Victor stood in the control room of Cathara Station and watched the enemy ships on the screens. 23 Vrex warships surrounded the station. They were like sharks circling a wounded animal. The Vrex were patient. They did not need to attack. They just needed to wait. Victor was a tall man with gray hair and a hard face. He had fought in 3 wars before this one, but he had never felt this kind of hopelessness. He looked at his weapons officer, Captain Dave. "How long can we hold?" Victor asked. Dave did not look up from his console. "We cannot hold at all, sir. Their firepower is 10 times ours. Our defense shield will fail in maybe 6 hours. After that, they can destroy the station whenever they want." Victor nodded. He already knew this. Every person on the station knew this. The question was not about winning. The question was about how many people they could save before the shield failed. Cathara Station was not a military base. It was a trading outpost in the middle of space. Before the war, ships came here to buy and sell goods. But the Vrex had conquered 3 systems in the last year. They had destroyed everything in their path. When they came, entire planets were burned. The few people who escaped came to Cathara Station. It was the only safe place left for thousands of kilometers. Now there were 14,000 people on the station. Families, children, old people who could barely walk. Scientists and farmers and merchants who just wanted to stay alive. And Victor had to protect them all with a security force of 200 soldiers. The Galactic Council had promised to send help. They had sent messages saying that a fleet was coming. But Victor had stopped believing those messages 3 days ago. The Council was afraid of the Vrex. They were afraid to fight. So they sent words instead of ships. And now those words meant nothing. A young soldier named Kevin ran into the control room. His uniform was dirty and his face was red. "Commander, the refugees in Sector 7 are asking again when we can leave. They are scared. The children are crying." Victor closed his eyes for a moment. "Tell them to stay calm. Tell them we are doing everything we can." It was a lie. They could not do everything they could. They could not do anything. They were trapped. The broadcast system crackled. It was a message from the Vrex commander. His voice was cold and exact, like a machine speaking. "You have 5 hours to surrender the station. We will kill everyone who resists. We will take the survivors as workers. This is your only choice. Surrender or die." The message ended. Victor could hear people in the station screaming. He could hear crying. He could hear the sound of fear spreading like a sickness through the metal halls. Captain Dave was looking at Victor. "What do we do, sir?" Victor looked at the screens again. The Vrex ships were moving closer. They were getting ready. They were going to crush the station like an ant. "We fight," Victor said. "We cannot beat them, sir." "I know. But we will fight anyway. We will make it cost them something. And maybe, just maybe, some of our people will survive long enough for help to come." Even as he said it, Victor did not believe it. Help was not coming. The Council had forgotten them. Earth was too far away to care. The other species in the galaxy were too weak to fight. They were alone. Victor went to the broadcast system and pressed the button. He wanted to speak to everyone on the station at once. "This is Commander Victor. I know you are scared. I know many of you thought we would leave before the Vrex arrived. I know you thought the Galactic Council would send ships to protect us. I am sorry that did not happen." He paused. He wanted his next words to be true, even if they were not what people wanted to hear. "We are going to fight. We will not surrender. I will not let the Vrex take this station and kill everyone here. We will defend it with everything we have. Some of you will help me. Some of you will go to the safe areas in the lower levels. We will protect you. That is my promise." Victor turned off the broadcast. He was still lying, but at least it was a lie that felt like hope. Over the next 2 hours, Victor organized the station. He sent the oldest people and all the children to the deepest levels. It was not truly safe, but it was safer than the upper levels. The strong people he gathered in the main defense room. Some of them had been soldiers before. Most of them had not. But they were willing to fight. Sergeant Linda was in charge of the second defense line. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that showed no fear. She had fought the Vrex twice before, and both times she survived when others did not. They will breach the lower shields first, she told Victor. Then the main doors will fail. They will come in fast and try to kill everyone before we can organize. We need to make them slow down. We need to make them pay for every meter of this station. Victor nodded. Do it. Use the corridors. Make them come through one section at a time. Make them bleed. Yes, sir. We will bleed them dry. Victor went to the observation deck. He could see the wreck ships clearly now. They were close. Very close. In 3 hours, maybe less, they would start firing. The defense shield would flash and burn and eventually fail. And then the Vrex would come inside. Victor opened a channel to send one more message out into space. One last call for help. This is Cathra Station. We are under siege by the Vrex Collective. Our shields are failing. We have 14,000 civilians in the station. No military support. No hope of escape. If anyone is listening, please come. Please help us. We will hold as long as we can. Please come. He sent the message out into the stars. He knew no one would answer, but he had to try. For the children below. For all those people who looked to him for protection. The wreck ships moved even closer. Victor could almost see the weapons on their hull. All stations, this is the commander. Stand ready. They are coming. Remember what we fight for. Remember the children. Stand ready. The lights in the control room became a deep red. The alert was no longer a warning. The alert was the start of the end. But Victor did not move. He stood and watched and waited, because that is what a commander does when his people are about to die. The first Rex attack came at exactly the moment Victor expected it. The weapon struck the shield, and the station shook. Alarms screamed. On the screens, Captain Dave could see the energy drain. The shield was burning away like ice in a fire. Return fire, Victor commanded. The station's weapons were old. They were built for trade, not war. But they fired anyway. The beams streaked out into space and hit the wreck ship, and the wreck ship did not even slow down. Victor watched his weapons bounce off the enemy armor like pebbles thrown at a metal wall. 2 more wreck ships attacked. The station shook again. Harder this time. Lights in the control room flickered. Dave was working fast, trying to move power from one section to another, trying to keep the shield alive for just a few more minutes. Shield at 70%, Dave said. 50%, 30%. The wrecks kept firing. It was like watching an executioner swing his axe. There was no escape. There was no defense. There was only the slow counting down to death. Then the screens went white. For 1 second, everyone in the control room went blind. Dave rubbed his eyes. Victor leaned forward. What happened? The wrecks had not destroyed the shield. Something else had happened. When the light faded, the screen showed something that should not exist. A fleet of new ships was coming out of faster-than-light space. They came from a direction no one expected. They came with such speed that the instruments could barely track them. The ships were not sleek like the wreck ships. They were built square and hard, made for fighting, not for showing off. The design was different. The markings on the hull showed symbols that no one had ever seen before, and they moved like nothing Captain Dave had ever witnessed. They did not move in the careful lines of normal space combat. They moved like predators who knew exactly where their prey would be. 20 ships. Then 30. Then 40. An entire fleet was appearing in the space around Kethra Station. And they were heading straight for the wreck ships. What is that? Victor asked. I do not know, sir, Dave said. His hands were shaking. I do not know what those ships are. They are not in any database. They are not anything we know. The first new ship opened fire on the nearest wrecks vessel. The beam was different from any weapon Victor had ever seen. It did not just burn armor. It carved through the wreck ship like a hot knife through butter. The enemy warship twisted in space, trying to escape, but the beam followed. In seconds, the wreck ship was split in half. Explosions bloomed in space where the ship had been. The other new ships moved through the wreck's formation like dancers who had practiced this dance 1,000 times. They did not fire randomly. They did not waste ammunition. Every shot found a target. Every beam struck at the weak points where the wreck's armor was thin. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. The wreck's commander must have realized his mistake. The wreck ships began to back away. They tried to retreat to a safe distance, but they were too slow. The new ships were faster. The new ships were between the wreck's fleet and freedom. There was no escape. 3 wreck's capital ships exploded in a row. The wreck's commander sent out a signal. All the remaining wreck ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light space. They ran. They ran as fast as their engines could carry them. And they did not look back. The control room was completely silent. Dave was not typing anymore. He was just staring at the screens. Everyone was staring at the screens. In 5 minutes, the wrecks had gone from hunting victims to fleeing for their lives. One of the new ships sent a message. The voice that came through was clear and strong. This is the United Nations Space Command. Earth Military. We are responding to your distress call. Your station is under our protection now. The wreck's threat is eliminated. United Nations. Space Command. Earth. The words did not make sense. Earth was a myth. Earth was a place that existed only in old stories. Earth was supposed to be so far away that no one from there could ever reach the stars. But the ships on the screen were real. The destroyed wreck ships were real. The beams that had carved through enemy armor were real. And the human voice on the other end of the communication was real. Victor straightened in his chair. Open a channel to the Earthship, he said. Yes, sir. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. It was a man with dark hair and a calm expression. His uniform was blue and gray, and it had symbols Victor did not recognize. This is Captain Lucas of the United Nations Space Command. I am the commanding officer of this fleet. I received your distress call 7 hours ago. I am glad we arrived in time. Victor could not believe what he was seeing. You are from Earth. I am. My government was informed that there was a station under attack by the Rex Collective. Innocent people needed protection. We sent our nearest ships. We do not ignore calls for help. The captain said it like it was simple. Like traveling across the galaxy to save strangers was nothing unusual. Like Earth military ships just flew around the stars looking for people to rescue. Thank you, Victor said. Thank you. I do not have the words. You do not need to thank us. We will speak more later. First, I am sending landing teams to your station. We need to assess your situation and make sure you are truly safe. Stand by. The communication ended. Victor sat back in his chair and looked at the screens. The wreck ships were gone. The new ships from Earth were moving into position around the station, forming a protective shield. The station was safe. Not because of Victor, not because of the defense shields or the weapons, but because someone from the impossible place called Earth had answered the call. Outside, on the station, people began to realize what had happened. The screaming stopped. The fear that had filled the corridors began to leak away. In the lower levels, children asked their parents who had come to save them. Adults did not know how to answer. They only knew that rescue had come from the stars. Rescue had come from a place they thought was lost forever. And Captain Lucas of the Earth military stood on his ship's bridge and watched Kethra Station on his screens. His job was to protect innocent people. That was what humans did. That was what they had always done. And it was why he had come across the galaxy to face an enemy he had never fought before. The age of the Rex domination was over, and the age of something new was just beginning. Captain Lucas landed on Kethra Station with a team of 12 soldiers. He was a tall man with a strong jaw and eyes that had seen combat before. His soldiers wore armor that was different from anything Victor had ever seen. It was not shiny or complicated. It was plain and practical and looked like it could stop almost anything. Victor met them in the main docking area. When he saw the humans up close, he understood something. They were real. Not myths, not stories, but living, breathing people who had come from another world to help. Lucas shook Victor's hand. His grip was firm. "Commander Victor," Lucas said. "I am Captain Lucas. I am in command of the Earth military forces that responded to your distress signal. I need to know the current situation on your station." They walked through the corridors. Victor explained everything. The siege, the refugees, the failing shields, the amount of supplies they had left, the number of people who had been injured or killed before the Earthships arrived. Lucas listened and did not interrupt. He asked exact questions and wanted exact answers. He was not the kind of soldier who showed emotion, but his questions showed that he cared about every detail. 14,000 civilians, Lucas said. Children among them. Yes, Victor said. About 2,000 of them are under 16 years old. Lucas nodded. We will protect them. That is not a question. That is a fact. The Vrex will not return to this station. They entered the lower levels where the refugees had been sheltering. When the people saw humans for the first time, there was silence. The refugees had heard the stories about Earth. Everyone in the galaxy had heard the stories. But Earth was supposed to be gone. Earth was supposed to have fallen into the Dark Ages after something called the Second World War. A small girl ran forward from the crowd. She could not have been more than 6 years old. Her parents had been killed by the Vrex 3 months before. She had been living in the refugee section ever since, quiet and afraid, barely eating. The little girl looked up at a human soldier named Paul. He was big and strong and had a scar across his face. But his eyes were gentle. Are you the ones from the stories? The girl asked. Are you from Earth? Paul knelt down so he could look at her directly. His armor made noise when he moved. Yes, I am from Earth, Paul said. What is your name? My name is Min, the girl said. Min is a beautiful name, Paul said. I am Sergeant Paul. I am very happy to meet you. Paul reached into a small bag on his belt and took out a bottle of water. Are you thirsty, Min? I have water. The girl took the bottle and drank. It seemed like the simplest thing in the world. But it was more than that. It was a human from another world giving water to a child. It was protection. It was safety. It was the promise that someone cared enough to come across the stars. Other refugees began to move closer. Some of them were crying. Some of them were reaching out to touch the humans just to make sure they were real. The soldiers did not pull away. They stood still and let the refugees touch them. They understood what this moment meant. The scene spread through the station. Captain Lucas was inside the medical bay, talking to the doctors. He was asking about the injured. He was asking about medical supplies. He was already planning how to help. Sergeant Paul was sitting with a group of children, and they were all asking him questions about Earth. Where was Earth? Was it safe? Would they go there? Paul answered each question carefully and honestly. He told them about oceans and mountains and rain. He told them about families and friends. He told them about blue skies and stars. He made Earth sound like the most beautiful place in the galaxy. Commander Victor watched from the side. He had been the protector. He had been the one who gave orders and made the hard choices. But now he understood that protection was more than just having weapons and soldiers. Protection was also about showing people that someone cared. Showing them that they mattered. Captain Lucas found Victor an hour later. I have been reviewing your station systems, Lucas said. Your equipment is old. Your weapons are weak. But your people are strong. They did not break even when they thought there was no hope. That says something about them. What will happen now? Victor asked. Now we repair your station. We bring in supplies from Earth. We set up a defensive perimeter that the Vrex cannot break. And we wait. When they come back, we will be ready. They will come back? Yes, the Vrex do not accept defeat. But this time, we will be here. And we are not easy to defeat. Over the next several days, Earth soldiers worked alongside the refugees. They brought food and medicine and building materials. They repaired the station systems. They set up new weapons that made the old Vrex technology look like toys from ancient history. But more important than the weapons was what the humans brought with them. They brought the knowledge that the galaxy was bigger than the Vrex. They brought the proof that there was a place called Earth where people had not forgotten how to fight for others. They brought hope. On the fourth day, Lucas called a meeting with all the station leaders. Victor was there. The refugee representatives were there. The medical officer was there. Even some of the older children who had shown leadership were invited. Cathra Station is now under the protection of Earth, Lucas announced. The Vrex Collective attacked you. They killed your families and destroyed your worlds. We will not let them do that again. This station will be rebuilt. The refugees will be cared for. And when the Vrex return, we will show them that protection is stronger than conquest. Men, the little girl that Paul had given water to, was at the meeting. She was holding Paul's hand. She looked up at him and smiled. And Paul smiled back. It was a small moment. But it was also everything. It was the moment when a child from a destroyed world understood that she was no longer alone. It was the moment when the galaxy began to change. It was the moment when Earth showed that humans were not just stories in old books. They were real. They were here. And they kept their promises. The Vrex commander sat in his war room and burned with rage. 23 ships sent to crush an old trading station. All of them defeated in minutes by an enemy that did not even exist in the Vrex databases. It was impossible. It was humiliation. He sent a message to the Vrex collective leadership on the home world. Within hours, the response came back. They were sending a full invasion fleet. Not 20 ships. Not 100 ships. 300 warships with enough firepower to crack open planets. They would crush Cathra Station and a mysterious enemy. They would show the galaxy what true power looked like. The message spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it. The Vrex had been defeated. A new power had arrived from somewhere no one had ever heard of. And now the Vrex were coming back with everything they had. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. The ancient powers that ruled the galaxy were frightened. They had depended on the Vrex being the strongest military force. Now, suddenly, there was something stronger. The Council did not know what to do. Some wanted to negotiate with Earth. Some wanted to stay away from the conflict. Some wanted to help the Vrex, thinking that if Earth was defeated, things would return to how they had been before. But not everyone in the galaxy was frightened. Some people saw hope for the first time in years. A merchant captain named Grace had lost her family to Rex aggression 2 years before. She had escaped in a small trading ship and survived on whatever work she could find. When she heard that humans from Earth had saved the people at Cathara Station, she cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. Relief that someone still believed in fighting for the innocent. Grace sold everything she owned. She used the money to gather other merchant ships. 15 ships in total. They were not military vessels. They were cargo ships. But they were fast and they could carry supplies. Grace sent a message to Captain Lucas. I will bring food and medicine to Cathara Station. I will help in any way I can. I have nothing left to lose anyway. Lucas sent back one message. One word. Come. Other species began to move as well. A race called the Keller, who had lost 3 planets to the Rex, sent 5 warships. A merchant coalition from the outer regions sent supplies and volunteers. Even the Galactic Council, after much argument, agreed to send small support forces. Not because they wanted to fight the Rex, but because they were afraid of what would happen if Earth left. The news reached Cathara Station. Lucas was in the command center with Victor when the reports came in. We are not alone, Victor said. Other species are sending help. That was going to happen, Lucas said. The galaxy had forgotten what it meant to stand for something. We reminded them. Now they are remembering. The Rex fleet arrived 3 weeks later. 300 ships formed a massive circle around Cathara Station. It was the biggest military force the galaxy had assembled in 500 years. The Rex commander sent a message to Lucas. Surrender now and your people will die quickly. Resist and you will suffer. Lucas recorded a response. When he spoke, his voice was calm and without fear. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate with those who kill innocent people. The station will not fall. Your ships will not destroy these people. This is your only warning. Leave now or be destroyed. The Rex commander laughed when he heard the message. 1 human, 1 small fleet, against 300 of the greatest warships in the galaxy. It was madness. The human would be destroyed. And then the galaxy would remember that the Rex were supreme. The battle began exactly at noon. Station time. The Rex attacked from all sides at once. 300 ships opening fire together. The firepower was so great that the space around Cathara Station lit up like a sun. The station's new shields, installed by the Earth military, held strong. They burned and flashed but did not break. But Lucas had not planned to just defend. He had planned to attack. The Earth fleet moved like a symphony. Every ship knew exactly what to do. They did not spread out. They grouped together in formations that the galaxy had never seen before. And they used the station itself as a fortress. They used the asteroids and space debris around the station as cover. They made the empty space into a battleground that belonged to them. The Rex ships came in waves, trying to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. But numbers meant nothing against discipline and skill. The human ships moved through the Rex formation like bullets through soft tissue. Where they went, Rex ships caught fire and exploded. The enemy could not track them. The enemy could not predict their movements. The humans seemed to know where the Rex would be before the Rex knew where they would be. The battle raged for 12 hours straight. The Rex commander kept sending more ships into the meat grinder. He kept thinking that the next wave would break through. But it never did. The humans held. And they killed 300 Rex ships against Earth and its allies. By the end, 180 Rex ships were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. The Rex commander finally gave the order to retreat. Not back to home, but all the way back to the edge of Rex space. When the fighting ended, the Rex fleet was in ruins. The Rex Collective had lost more ships in one day than in 50 years of conquest. And the humans had suffered, but they were still there. They were still standing. They had not broken. On Cathar Station, people celebrated. The refugees who had lived in fear for so long could finally breathe. The children who had learned that death was coming could finally believe in tomorrow. Min, the little girl from before, ran to find Sergeant Paul. She jumped into his arms, and he caught her and spun her around. And both of them were laughing. Captain Grace sailed her merchant fleet into the station docking area. Her ships were full of food and supplies and medicine. She came looking for Lucas. When she found him, she bowed. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for what you have done. My family is at rest now. I can finally be at rest too." Lucas took her hand. "We will not let the wrecks hurt anyone else. That is the promise of Earth." Throughout the galaxy, the news spread. The wrecks could be defeated. Humans from Earth had defeated them. The age of Rex domination was truly over. And the galaxy, for the first time in a very long time, was beginning to hope again. But Lucas knew that this was only the beginning. The Rex would come again. They would rebuild their fleet. They would try again. But next time, Earth would be even more ready. Next time, more allies would stand with them. Because now, the galaxy had remembered what it meant to fight not for power, but for protection. And humans had come to remind them. The Galactic Council meeting was held in a great chamber on the planet Meridian. The chamber was ancient. It had been used for diplomatic meetings for 10,000 years. The most powerful species in the galaxy had gathered there to decide the fate of humanity and the new order of the stars. Captain Lucas walked into the chamber with Commander Victor at his side. The humans wore their military uniforms, not formal clothing. Lucas refused to dress up for the occasion. This was not a ceremony. This was a meeting of equals. And humans had proven they were equal to any power in the galaxy. The Vrex were not in the chamber. They had sent a representative, but that representative was under guard and could not speak. The Vrex Collective was being investigated for crimes against lesser species, genocide, slavery, forced labor, all the things the Vrex had done for centuries, and no one had dared to stop them before. The council leader was an ancient being called Kelron. He was of the Talzaran race, a species that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Kelron looked at Lucas with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. "Human," Kelron said, "your species has arrived in our galaxy with great power and great violence. You have defeated the Vrex Collective. You have broken an order that has lasted for 10,000 years. The council must ask, what do you want? Do you want to rule us? Do you want to conquer?" Lucas stood straight. He did not show fear. He did not show arrogance. He simply spoke the truth. "We do not want to rule," Lucas said. "We do not want to conquer. We want smaller species to live without fear. We want the innocent to be protected. We want an end to genocide and slavery. We want a galaxy where might does not always make right." One of the council members stood. He was a merchant prince from the outer regions. Humans would have us believe they are different. But every powerful species in the galaxy has said the same thing. They all claim to protect others. They all claim to be righteous. But they all conquered and took what they wanted. "That is true," Lucas said. "I do not ask you to believe what I say. I ask you to watch what we do. Watch for a year. Watch for 10 years. If humans conquer, then fight us. If humans build, then join us. But give us a chance to prove that we mean what we say." The council debated for hours. Some members wanted to refuse humanity. Some wanted to accept them immediately. Some wanted to put restrictions on human power. In the end, a vote was taken. The result was unanimous. Humanity was granted a seat on the Galactic Council. A full vote. A full voice. a full share of power and responsibility. The Earth military would be recognized as a legitimate galactic force. Any species that attacked human territories would be considered an enemy of the Council. It was a victory, not just for humans, but for every small species in the galaxy that had lived in fear for so long. Back on Kethra Station, life was changing. The refugee camps were being rebuilt into real communities. New schools were being opened. Medical clinics were staffed by both humans and aliens working side by side. The old fear was fading away. The new hope was taking root. Min, the little girl who had been orphaned by Rex violence, was in a classroom with other children from a dozen different species. They were learning about Earth. Sergeant Paul was teaching them. He told them about mountains and oceans and rain. He told them about families and about how humans had learned to work together despite their differences. "Why did you come to help us?" Min asked. "We do not know you. You do not know us." Paul sat down so he could look at the children at their level. "Because that is what humans do," he said. "When someone needs help, we come. When someone is in pain, we try to heal them. When someone is afraid, we stand beside them. It is not complicated. It is not about getting something in return. We help because helping is the right thing to do. Will you stay?" Another child asked. "Some of us will stay," Paul said. "Some of us will go to other places where people need help. But we will never forget you. You are part of the Earth family now. And family takes care of family." That evening, a memorial was built on the station. A monument to everyone who had died in the Rex attack. The refugees came together. Humans came. The allied species came. They lit a flame that would burn forever. A symbol that the dead were not forgotten. Min was there with Sergeant Paul. She held his hand as the flame grew higher. Paul looked at the small girl and understood something important. This was why humans had come to the stars. Not to conquer. Not to collect resources or land, but to make sure that little girls like Min could grow up in a world where they were safe. On the command deck of the flagship, Captain Lucas stood with Commander Victor. They looked out at the stars. The view was the same as it had always been, but the galaxy below them was different. The age of conquest was ending. The age of protection was beginning. "What comes next?" Victor asked. "More stations to protect," Lucas said. "More people who need help. More worlds that the Vrex left in ruins. There is much work to do. Will the Vrex try again? Yes, someday, but not for a long time. And next time, they will find more resistance. Other species have learned that they do not have to accept domination. The human example will spread. Other species will start to fight back. The galaxy will change." Lucas turned to face Victor. "You fought well, Commander. You protected your people with nothing but courage. That is something the galaxy will remember. That is something I will remember." Victor bowed slightly. "You gave us hope when there was no hope. That is something we will never forget." Across the galaxy, the message spread. The Vrex were defeated. Earth was real. Humans had come from another world to save innocent lives. They asked nothing in return, except that other species try to protect each other as humans protected them. In ships and on planets. Species that had never worked together before began to talk. Trade routes that had been closed for centuries began to open. Species that had been enemies for generations began to make peace. Not because they suddenly liked each other, but because they had seen that working together was stronger than fighting apart. Min looked up at the stars one night. She was sitting with Sergeant Paul on the observation deck. She pointed to a bright star far away. "Is that Earth?" she asked. "No," Paul said. "Earth is much farther than that. But someday, maybe you will see it. Maybe you will see the blue oceans and the green mountains and the cities where humans live. Will you take me?" Min asked. If you want to go, I will take you, Paul said. You are one of us now. Earth is your home too. Min smiled. For the first time since her parents died, she smiled without sadness. She smiled with hope. She smiled because someone had come across the stars and promised to protect her. Someone had shown her that the universe was not just darkness and fear. It was also filled with good people who were willing to do hard things for others. The story of Earth was just beginning. The warriors from the distant world had arrived. They had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. They had shown that protection was more powerful than conquest. And they had opened a door to a new future. A future where the innocent would no longer have to stand alone. A future where the stars would shine for everyone, not just the strong and cruel. The age of Earth had begun. And with it, the age of hope for the entire galaxy.